Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Bree, and I'm one of the unit coordinators this term in Prep Skills. And for today's lecture, I'm joined by Shannon. And we've also got Bridge hanging around as well, but Shannon will be your friendly person in the chat. So if you pop anything in there, Shannon will be there to answer it or draw attention to it. So welcome, everyone. We're up to week 3, and this week's all about learning styles and personality types. Just a reminder that, as usual, this lecture will be recorded, so just keep that in mind. And I'd also like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we live, work and learn, and pay my respects to the First Nations people, their elders past, present and emerging, affording great respect for their knowledge and wisdom. So everyone, we have a couple of learning outcomes as usual this week for Module 3. So this week we're going to hopefully help you understand your learning styles and your personality types. We are going to discuss how these preferences or traits might have impacted on past learning experiences. These might be both negative and positive, different ways. And we're going to look at some strategies to help you learn. Now, I'll warn you at the top, I'm going to say the word preferences a lot today, so be prepared to get sick of that word. Lots about preferences. So, first up, you might be wondering, looking at this topic, why? Why, Bree, would we bother examining learning styles and personality types? So we have a few different reasons that I'll go through at the top. So often students come to steps, well, not often, always, students come to steps with some sort of learning experience. So whether that's in the workplace, you might have studied a certificate before, you've been to school in some form or another. So lots of people have had different experiences of learning, and hopefully learning a bit more about how you learn and your personality can help you explain and understand some of these past learning experiences. So for example, why maybe something hasn't worked for you, or maybe why something's worked really well. So we hope to sort of explain that so that then you can use that information moving forward. And that links to my next reasoning, which is developing your learning potential. So if we know what works, we can keep doing it. Whereas if we don't know, it makes it really tricky. So we really hope to make you the most effective learner possible and to be able to succeed at university. That's super important. So hopefully getting a bit of a deeper understanding of yourself will help develop your learning. Another reason is if you've got some of this deeper self-awareness, sometimes that can help broaden your knowledge. You might remember from week 1, we talked about some of the graduate attributes, and one of those was cultural competence. And that's part of this. Part of knowing your learning and personality styles is actually knowing other people's and understanding other people and where they're coming from. So that can also help you. And that's really important as well at university as you go on this journey in steps. And if you then go on to do a degree, there is lots of collaborative learning. So whether that's group projects or, coming on here and talking to each other or going to workshops. So it's good to sort of understand others as well as yourself. So I'm going to break this lecture down into a few different parts. So our first part, we're going to look at learning styles. Then we're going to look at personality types, and then we're going to have a bit of a discussion about them all and about learning portfolio A. So starting with part 1, we're first going to talk about our Solomon and Felder learning styles. So you'll have to bear with me here. I love a bit of history and a little bit of background. So I'm going to give you some background on where the Solomon and Felder learning styles have come from. So this is one of the tools we're going to be using this week. So this is a picture here of Richard Felder, and along with Barbara Solomon, they created this Solomon Felder learning styles tool. I would have a picture of Barbara there, but that lady is really tricky to find a photo of. So we've only got Richard, sorry. She's a bit of a difficult one to find a photo. So we've got Richard. We're partway there. So what happened was Felder was teaching engineering students. He was actually a professor of engineering, at North Carolina State University during the 1980s. And he sort of observed that students worked in different ways, which probably seems obvious now. But he was sort of trying to figure out how his students learned, why some students preferred different ways of learning. And he actually first worked with an educational psychologist called Linda Silverman. And together they sort of came up with some learning styles, so some sort of ideas of how people learn. And they used this for quite a few years, and it was more so for like instructors, so lecturers like us, to sort of look at your class and help understand why the class worked the way it did. But then came along Solomon in the 90s, and Solomon and Felder thought a bit more about how they could use these styles or these tools, these learning styles, to help students understand themselves. So together they created what's now called the Index of Learning Styles in 1999. And you're all going to do this quiz, this questionnaire, I guess. It's available on Moodle, and I'll talk about it a bit more at the end. But this index helps you to figure it out yourself. So it's sort of moved from lecturers using it to understand their classes to individuals being able to use this index to understand themselves. So it looks a bit like this. There are 4 categories, and each has 2 sort of opposing sides or styles. So you can see there you've got like reflective and active, sensing and intuitive, visual, verbal, and sequential and global. But it's really important to understand that these aren't just one or the other. It's a continua. So that's why it's sort of set out like that, as you can see, one to the other, because you'll fall somewhere along here. So you might not be all the way over here at active or all the way over here at reflective. You'll be somewhere along the continua. So that's the way these work. So learning style preferences, I told you, I'm going to say preferences a lot, are just that, they're preferences. So they're characteristics, strengths, and sort of the way people like to do things. So this is the way Felder first described them. So learning styles refer to characteristics, strengths, and preferences in the ways people take in and process information. So I'm going to give you a bit of a caveat about preferences. I told you I'd say it a lot. So a preference is just that. It's something you prefer. So you might prefer to do something in a more active way, but you can also be reflective. You don't, it's just the way you like to do things. It's not the way you have to do things. So I always use a bit of a real world example to think of this. Anyone on the Gladstone campus who has been to the Gladstone campus before might know that we have a lift bridge. So we've got this really fancy bridge that you can get to the campus easily from the city, from town, but it lifts up to let boats through. So sometimes you'll get to the bridge and, you know, the bridge is lifted up and there's a big boat going through. Now,
that sounds like the Marina Bridge.
Yeah, yep, the Marina Bridge. That's right. Yeah, exactly. You're thinking of the right one. Yep, Marina Bridge. So the only problem with this bridge is it gets stuck. So I prefer to go over the bridge each morning because that's the quickest, easiest way to get to work. So that's my preference. However, when the bridge gets stuck, I have to accept that I can't have my preference anymore and I've just got to go around the long way. So I have to sort of drive around a back street and all the way around. It takes me like 5 extra minutes and, you know, I get a bit annoyed, but that's life. I have a preference for going over it. Sometimes something gets in the way, I've got to go around. So that's how I want you to think of these learning styles and personality traits, that they're preferences, but you're not held to them. I don't, you know, get to the bridge and, you know, do a Blues Brothers and try to jump over it or, you know, throw myself in the creek. Like I just accept that I have to go around because it's my preference, but I can accommodate other things. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of an activity. We're going to do it both on here on Zoom, but you might also like to, so you've got it written down in front of you on your physical piece of paper or your iPad, whatever it is, draw me a bit of a scale. So all the way from a strong preference to sort of mild, balance, medium to strong preference on the other side. And we're going to go through each section and talk about, do a bit of a prediction about which preference you think you are. Now, you can also play along with me here and do it on the screen. So if you've all got your Zoom tools there, here's a bit of an instruction. You can find the annotate tool. So if you're on a phone, it might sort of be down the bottom, that picture of a pencil. If you're on a computer, you might need to go to view options and then annotate, and it should come up with a little a bar. If everyone just wants to do me a favor, and if you want to play along on the screen, do you want to just see if you can put some stamps or stickers or something on the screen with the annotate tool? Let's have a play. Yep, some people are drawing. For this, there's a stamp option. It might be easier. Top tip. Okay. All right. I think we've got a handle on the annotate tool. This always gets a little bit wild. All right. So I'm going to clear this one in a sec, and then I'm going to flick to my next slide. I'm going to give you a scale of active and reflective and give you a bit of a definition. In your book or on the screen, you can pop your little stamp or whatever little symbol you've picked at either side if you think you're active, reflective, or somewhere in between. So let me clear all drawings, everyone. We'll stop drawing for a sec to get ready for the next slide. All right. So here's our active reflective scale. So as part of this learning styles and preferences, we say that being an active learner is someone who likes to do hands-on things. They like to get in there, get their hands dirty, experiment, see how things work. You might have been that kid that was always pulling everything apart and having a look inside. Someone who's a bit reflective is more likely to sort of sit back, think about it. You know, they might need a moment before they act on things. Often these students after class, they sort of like to take it in and then sort of reflect on what's happened in class and then go ahead and do the work. So yeah, good job everyone. Look at those stamps. Love it. Are we all good in the chat, Shannon? Is everyone okay?
Yep.
All good, thank you.
We are all good. I did have to Google the acronym AFK earlier on. It means away from keyboard.
Oh, thank you. I did not know that either.
No, I was feeling very old. I'm not sure if Anthony needed something or not.
Yeah, we're all learning things. All right. So we've got probably all a little more active, some people in the middle, some people off the chart completely. We're not sure where they are, but that's okay. That's okay. It's a guess at this stage. All right, I'm going to clear all of these ones, everyone. So clear all. All right. Our next one is sensing or intuitive. So someone who's a bit sensing, I sort of like to think of this as someone who likes to use all their senses. So, you know, their sight, their, you know, taste, hearing, all those things to investigate. So these people often like facts, logic, things they can see, feel, touch. Someone who's a bit more intuitive is pretty comfortable with theories, abstract concepts. They're okay with sort of not living in the black and white. So pop on the scale where you think you are. Lots of people in the middle here. Oh, a few. Oh, there's somebody who's way so sensing they're off the chart. People in the middle. People who are further on the intuitive. All right. I'll give everyone another sec to pop these in, and I'll clear it again. Don't forget to note these down as you're going, because I will clear them. So note down which on your own scale in front of you. these ones. Okay. Our next one is visual or verbal. So visual people really like those images we can see there, visual graphs, tables, charts. You might really like mind mapping and sort of writing pretty things down and making it really clear to you. Other people who are a bit more verbal, like written or spoken words, they like to hear, say, read. You might really like written instructions rather than images of how to do something. Oh, was someone going to say something? We just got an accidental open mic. Okay. All right. Someone is so visual that they're leaving the chart. I like that arrow there. We're off. Couple of verbal people at the end. Lots in the middle again. Oh, I like our little star down here on visual for the eye. That's cute. Okay. Last but not least, I'll clear all of these ones. So this last one is sequential or global. So I like to think of this as the sequential people like to do things in steps. They like the process. They like to know exactly what's next. No surprises, as it says on the screen there. Someone who's a bit more global likes the big picture. So they like to see how it's all going to happen at the end. So I actually think that global and sequential people can work really well together, because often a global person has like great big ideas and, you know, they can see a vision of how it's going to work, but they don't necessarily think about all the steps to get there. Whereas someone who's sequential is the person that looks at the steps. So they'll go to the global person. All right, so, you know, first we have to set a date for the meeting, and then we have to do up a bit of a plan of what each person's going to do. So they really see those steps. So I think global and sequential are quite complementary, those ones. So pop on your little symbol where you think you are. Lots of people in the middle for this one. A few people, a few sequential people. Very good. All right. Good job, everyone. So note all these down. You will do these questionnaires on Moodle, but it might be interesting to see if they line up with what you think. All right, just going to clear all of those. Okay. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what this Solomon and Felder Learning Styles Index is going to look like, the questions will appear a bit like this. So my best advice really is don't overthink it. So don't overanalyze these questions. Just go with your gut. Go with the thing that you think comes first to your mind. So you'll be asked, like on this example, to choose from two options. So you'll be given sort of a statement, then two options. So it can be a little bit frustrating to choose between two. I know a lot of students get a bit annoyed with this one because it's a bit, you know, a bit binary to have to choose one or the other. I know, but don't overthink it. Just pick the one that comes first. It does re-ask a few questions, so it will sort of come out in the end. Yes, Shannon.
Bree, just in the chat, and this might be a time to address that. So a lot of people tend to find it is situational. So, you know, with their study, they might like to try it out, but, you know, in work, they like to think it through or something like that. You know, what's your advice there? Like, just first answer?
Yeah, first answer. Also, probably because we are doing this to focus more on your study, have in the back of your mind, you're thinking about university, thinking about your study. But yes, I know what you mean, Shannon. It can be really situational. And like I said, that's why these are preferences. You might have a job where, you know, you don't get to think everything through. You've just got to jump in and do it. You might not always love that, but you've maybe gotten used to it, you know? Like there's heaps of things out there. If you're an emergency room nurse, you're not going to, you know, take a moment to reflect on what's happening and come back in a couple of hours and then fix the bleeding patient. You've got to do it. So we sort of adapt to our situations. So yeah, go with your first thing, the thing that feels most genuine to you. But I do understand it's a bit tricky because we all adapt to our surroundings. Oh my gosh, look at the people have embraced the annotate. Were there any other questions in the chat on this one, Shannon?
No, just I think it's Yalin or Yalin. Don't overthink it. Well, my entire personality has been counted. I can't say that word. So yeah, I think the general feeling is that it is going to be hard to choose between one or two, and
it is. It's a bit frustrating. I'm sorry. I know.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point too. Is the questions get asked so many times in different ways that eventually it starts to understand you a bit more. So
yes, Shannon, that's exactly right. That's a good way to put it. Actually, you're right. It's sort of that's what it's trying to do is drill down and ask the same thing just in different sort of ways to figure out where you are. So that's right. It can seem a bit repetitive and frustrating, but you've got to go with it. Okay, clear all of this. So one of the common questions we get asked is, but what if I'm in the middle? So this is a bit of an example of someone who's, you can see here it's active and reflective. This is sort of how the scale comes out, and then there's little crosses where you are. So you can see this person's quite in the middle, especially for sequential and global, then visual and verbal a bit too, sensing and intuitive. So sometimes people think this is a bad thing. They go, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle. What does that even mean? But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It actually probably means you have strengths on both sides. So don't, get this and think, oh my gosh, I've done something wrong. It's totally normal to be a bit in the middle. So just a word of warning there. If it comes out and yours looks a little bit like this, that's completely fine. Lots of us, like I just said, have different skills, different experiences. There's probably brought us somewhere in the middle so that we can, look at both sides. So not a bad thing, probably actually a good thing. It's just reflecting your abilities and who you are. So before I move on to part 2, our personality types, does anyone have any questions about the Learning Styles Index? All right, I think we're okay. I'll open up to questions again at the end. So we'll come back. Okay, so part 2 is our personality types. So this is our second questionnaire that we'll be doing. And it's going to come out with, there are 16 possible personality types, and they're all represented by a group of 4 letters. I just want to point out that I picked this little graphic because I like it a lot, because I'm an ENFJ and it's a Knight on here and my last name's Knight. So I thought that was hilarious. So it knows. So yeah.
What am I? I'm an ENFP, and I don't know what that little man with the loudspeaker is. You're
just announcing things.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why I'm a Knight either, to be honest. I have no, the graphic makes sense in no other way. I just thought it
for
was
other people's causes, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Okay, so again, a little bit of history here. I'll just clear those drawings in there. Okay, so this version, there's lots of different versions of personality types, but the one we're going to look at is the Jung typology and Myers-Briggs. So to give you a bit of background, you might have heard a couple of these names before, maybe just in passing, but Carl Jung was a Swiss psychotherapist and psychiatrist, and he was sort of originally the pioneer of this theory of personality types and archetypes. So he's often the person sort of credited with coming up with this idea that there are different personalities and that we're all sort of made up of different ways. He was sort of someone too who popularized the idea that we're born with our own sort of individual, personalities. Whereas for a long time, people used to think we were sort of born as a blank slate. We were just a baby with, nothing. And as you went through life, things were added and you built a personality. But Jung really thought that no, our personalities are from both nature and nurture. So, as well as coming out with that theory, we then bring in the Myers-Briggs. So this is probably the most common, the MBTI. It's probably the most common version of the personality types you've heard of, the Myers-Briggs type indicator. It's a really interesting way it came about, actually. It was originally created by a mother and daughter team, Catherine Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers. And this was during World War II. And what happened is a lot of, obviously, men and some women went off to fight in World War II or to work in supportive roles. And this left a really big hole, I guess, in the economy because so many people had left to go off and do different jobs overseas. And there was a need to then sort of fill these jobs with a workforce. And this workforce was primarily made up of women who potentially hadn't worked outside of the home before. And the Catherine Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers came up with this personality types sort of questionnaire to try and help women entering the workforce understand what might be suitable employment for them. So where their strengths and maybe their weaknesses come from. So that's how it first came about. They helped to sort of give people an idea of in what way they could help the economy at that time, I guess. So that's where the MBTI has come from. It does have some critics, but it is still widely used today. And I will talk in a moment actually about some of those limitations, but we'll go through and have a look at it first. So, like I said, we're going to use the one that we're using is called the Jung Typology Quiz. And yeah, it's based on the Myers-Briggs. To be honest, it's pretty accurate. In my experience, I always come up on this little quiz as an ENFJ. And I've actually had the proper Myers-Briggs test done where it's quite a long-winded exercise over many days and it comes up as the same. So fairly accurate. Okay, so we're going to do this one a little bit differently, but same thing. Draw a bit of a scale in your book, iPad, whatever you've got in front of you. This one we're going to do very much like me on each side because again, it's a scale, it's a continua, and you might fall somewhere in the middle. So again, I know I've said it a few times, but these are the same. They're preferences. They don't dictate completely who you are. We're all very adaptable as humans, but they are preferences. So I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. I'm just going to give you the words first and see where you think you are. Then I'm going to explain them a little more because I think sometimes the words are a bit, I don't know, deceiving. So I want to see what you think. So our first question is, where do we get our energy from? So outside of ourselves or our own inner world? And this is extrovert versus introvert scale. You've probably heard of this one before. It's pretty popular. But just with that little bit of info, pop on there where you think you are. Just going to grab a quick drink of water while you do that. All right, got a few extroverts, a few people in the middle, some introverts down that end. Okay. Got to clear this one and let me give you a bit more information and see if you still think you're one or the other. So someone who's an extrovert is more talkative, enjoys people and socializing, can get a bit lonely without people. But the key is, as the question asks, where do we get our energy from? They're energized by being with people out in the world. So often extroverts can, feel a bit run down if they spend too much time by themselves. They sort of need to spend a bit of time with people to feel nice and energized. Someone who's a bit more introverted They're generally a bit more reflective, might enjoy listening a bit more, need a bit of quiet space, and need to be alone to re-energize. Now, just a bit of a caveat with the extroversion introversion. It's often actually really tricky to know just by meeting someone if they're an introvert or an extrovert. And that's because it's pretty personal where we get our energy from. So some people who are quite quiet can still be extroverted and, really love being around people, and that's where they get their energy. They're just not super loud. Whereas on the other hand, someone who's very confident and talkative and enjoys socializing might still need to sort of have alone time to re-energize. So it's not as straightforward, I guess, as being able to pick the loud person as the extrovert or the quiet person as the introvert. It can swing a little bit. Are you an extrovert, Shannon? Or are you an introvert? You're an extrovert, aren't you?
Yeah, I come up as an extrovert.
Yeah, so do
I kind
I.
of like to think I'm a introverted extrovert.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely need my time to recharge. It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
But I do find myself energized by being around other people. So that's where I come to it. So
yeah, I think I'm exactly the same. I'm certainly not someone who doesn't. I'm happy to be by myself. I like. I don't mind, but I do. Yeah, I agree. I think
and sometimes you don't realize it either. Like, so I work at home, so it feels good. I get lots of work done, but I don't realize how much I need other people until I attend an on-campus event. And then I feel a bit more motivated, or even just a Zoom session. So that's how I work it out, I guess.
Yeah. And some people are the opposite. I'm always, you might have actually seen Helen in some of our videos and different things, but Helen was one of our lecturers for years in prep skills, and she was always an I introvert. But Helen comes across as one of the most talkative out there people I know. But she always said she always needed just alone time to recharge. Loved being with people, but couldn't recharge that way. Would get too.
I'm surprised there. Yeah,
I know. She always surprised me too. But she always came out as an I. So it can go the other way too. Just depends. Okay, clearing all of these ones. Our next question is how we gather information. So this one might look a little bit familiar. So do we do it through our senses or through our ideas? And this is our sensing and intuition scale. So just with that little bit of information, pop on your little sticker on the scale where you think you are. People in the middle, unsure, or maybe feel confident that you're both. Interesting. A few more people sort of on the intuition side, maybe. All right, I'll clear this one. And let me give you some more info and see if you still agree. So this is actually quite similar, this scale, to the scale from the learning types that we've just looked at. So someone who's a bit more sensing likes to use their senses. They're a bit more tactile. They like practical, realistic things. They like specifics. They like to focus on the facts, the details, those sorts of things. Someone who's a bit more intuitive. Sometimes these people are thought of as a bit of daydreamers. They sort of like imagining. They're abstract thinkers, like to think of the future, big picture. So these ones are a little bit of a mix of the learning styles categories as well. So interesting. Note if you still think you're your first pick, or if you've sort of changed your mind. It's getting some more information. Okay. Clear these ones. I'll ask our next question. So, number 3 is how we make decisions. So, how we go about a decision-making process. So, do we do it through logic or through how we feel? So, this is our thinking and feeling scale. So, just with that little bit of info, pop on your thought, your little sticker, your mark. What are you feeling, people? Some thinkers. People in the middle, that's okay. Don't have to know for certain. I don't really know what's happening to this smiley face down here that's crying. It looks like very upset and like its eyes have retreated up its head. But anyway, it's an odd little smiley there. All right. Thank you, whoever's fixing that for me. Good job. Okay. Got to clear all these ones. So this part of the personality types looks at how we make our decisions. So someone who's a bit more thinking might be someone who's considered a bit more tough-minded, a bit head before heart, can be a bit objective in situations, logical, very rule-based, process-driven sort of decisions. Someone who's a bit more feeling might be a bit more tender-minded, heart before head, might be a bit more personal, passionate, and make some value judgments when they're making their decisions. So a bit similarly to how I think the sequential and global learning styles work together well, thinking and feeling can work together really well too, because often when decisions are being made, especially in a workplace or, maybe when you're studying, it's sometimes actually a good thing to have a bit of both. Somebody to consider the feelings and how this will have effects on the people, and someone to consider the processes. So it's sort of a good balance to have a bit of both.
Bree, I've got 2 sisters who are strong thinking types, and I'm a feeling type. So they're both lawyers. That's very tough-minded, very rule-based
thinking. Yeah.
And so we clash so many times because their decisions are always come back to the rules. And right from young children, we've clashed on those kind of things. It's pretty funny.
That is funny, isn't it? Yeah, funny that 2 of you ended up very much thinking and one feeling.
Yeah. Raised in the same environment, and But yes, and that also goes on to show later on if we discuss it about how you do have to have different personality types for different jobs, or the ability to think. So lawyer, judges very much have to rely on that thinking personality trait. I'd be hopeless.
Same. I'm a feeling personality trait too. But I think there's definitely certain careers, certain aspects that are better being one or the other, and some that work well with both, to be honest, like some that you need a sort of balance.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, I think I used to I have 2 colleagues I used to work with, and years ago when I worked in the library at CQU, and I used to think they worked so well together. The one was very much a thinking person, one was very much a feeling person, but I think they could both see eye to eye, and it was really nice because one would be, okay, so this is what the process is going to be, this is how we implement the things, this is the rules, and the other person would always be bringing in, okay, but how's this going to affect the staff, or how's this going to make everyone feel about the process. So it was nice to have
that. What make the world great, isn't it? If you have a balance. So
exactly, if you can find that balance. In saying that, I'm sure it can be tricky if you're too much thinking and too much feeling, and that can create a clash. Just depends. Okay, we'll clear this one. We'll have a look at our very last question. This is possibly the hardest one, the hardest words, I reckon. So this is how we organize our world. So is everything we do very organized and under control, or are we a bit more of a sit back, wait and see? So I'm just going to give you the words. You might not fully understand at first, but just a guess at which one you think is which, and then I'll explain them. probably the trickiest, this one. The words don't really match, but I'll explain it in a second. Okay if you don't necessarily know yet. Like I said, this one's a tricky one, so just take a guess. Any question marks up there, but that's okay. Will make more sense. Okay. Let me clear this one and give you some more information. So on this scale, we look at how we organize our world. So there's a judging and perceiving. Now, in this context, a lot of people see the word judging and think like judgmental, like you're judging people. But that's not really what this means in this context. Judging more means your ability to judge time and judge what organizational strategies are needed. So someone who's a bit more judging is sort of product orientated. They like to have a schedule. They're good at judging time. There's lists, outlines, quite organized people. They also like to finish tasks and have a bit of closure. Whereas someone who's perceiving is a bit more sort of go with the flow, a bit more open. They might have a bit of difficulty making decisions, but yeah, they like different options. Often people who are perceiving are a bit more procrastinators, but in saying that, they're often also a bit more open to ideas and doing things differently. So there's pros and cons to both. So now that you know or have a bit more understanding, think about whether or not you've changed your opinion on if you're judging or perceiving, or if you've stuck with it. Somebody's given us a big circle around perceiving there. All right. Let me clear this one. Okay. So once you've gone through, done the questionnaire, answered all of those, you will get a set of the four letters. And those will make up your personality type. So like I said before, I'm an ENFJ. So you might be an INFT. I don't know. ISFJ, lots of them, lots of 16 combinations. So I'll just show you what this one looks like and talk about that for a sec, and then I'll open it up to some questions. So this scale's a little bit different. It has like a strong yes, less strong yes, uncertain no, strong no. So it's a bit different a scale. You get to sort of pick rather than just one or the other, like in the learning styles. Again, this one, try to not overanalyze it too much. I know that's easy to say, harder to do, but try and sort of go with your gut here, what comes to mind first. Might also help, like we were saying before, to think about it in sort of a study context. I understand that depending on your life and job and different things, you might have learnt to, be on time all the time because you have to be, but maybe left to your own devices, you'd be late. So have a think about it, which one you think really sort of genuinely is you. Looks everyone answering the question. Everyone's embracing the annotate. All right. Any questions about the personality types? I'll talk about it a little bit more, but just in case there's anything in the chat I've missed, Shannon, or anything we need to.
No. Only there was a discussion, but I don't think we've got time for that today, about another type of personality. So
yeah,
ambivert versus omnivert, but that's probably something we can go into maybe in the shoot or yeah.
Very good. Okay, so let me clear my screen again. All right. So look, we do this to sort of better understand, as for all the reasons I said at the top, to better understand ourselves, to understand the way we learn, and to be able to understand others and put that into practice. There is a bit of fun though. You can, if you're interested, you can pop in your personality type into Google, and there's heaps of them for different for different movies or TV shows. So this is just one I chose for myself. This is Glinda the Good Witch, the Wizard of Oz, which is supposedly she's an ENFJ. But yeah, if you're interested, it's just a little bit of fun. Can't really be taken too seriously, obviously, but yeah, if you're interested, once you've done the questionnaire, pop in yours and see what little character you might be. I think there's a really good one, actually. I think you might have even shared it with me, Shannon, about is it the Marvel universe? They do all the superheroes. No, not
I've
you.
seen that one, but it wasn't from me.
Okay, somebody's, one of our team shared it. Yeah. So if you're into that, I think Harry Potter, there's one from Harry Potter. There's heaps of them. So have a look. Bit of fun. We also have another link on the Moodle page if you're interested in it, which is just a different sort of way of looking at the personality types. This is the Kinsey scale. So it's just, different way of sort of grouping those personality types into, they go into artisan, guardian, idealist, rational. I'd be interested in that as well, but that's an optional one. So just a couple of things to note, and this is actually some things that Richard Felder also noted, that if you'll remember, one of the creators of the learning styles, that, they're not necessarily scientific, they're not perfect. They can also categorize people into certain boxes. So we want to be really clear that we encourage you to use these tools to create a bit of self-awareness, to hopefully open up your ideas about your learning, but not to put you in a box where you have to stay. If you're an active learner or you're someone who's a bit more of a global thinker, it doesn't mean that you have to be that all the time. So I know I keep saying that, but that's just some things to note. It's good too to think of these not so much as a test, like we're not testing you, but just tools, some things to get you thinking and discussing. Also a note, no learning style or personality type is better than another. They all have benefits in different ways, and it's, like anything in the world, we need lots of people who are different and all have different ways of seeing to make it an interesting, vibrant place. So keep that sort of in perspective, I guess. There's no good or bad. Also, your preferences and traits can change over time. Like I said, if you go into a career in one or the other, and like Shannon was saying, maybe if you go into more of a legal career, often you need to be a bit more logical thinking, and you might be, going into a career where you need to be more feeling. So it just really depends. So these can sort of change and adjust over time, and we adapt to our surroundings. Importantly, you can't use them as an excuse. Sorry, I'm not giving you an excuse today to say, oh, I can't do that because I'd have to reflect, and I'm not reflective. So we can do things even if they're a bit hard. It's like me having to go all the way around instead of across the bridge. I still can do it. It's just a bit annoying.
So just go home, Brie.
Oh, I know. Just give up.
It's a sign.
It's a sign. Today's not the day. It's also nice to think about it that we're not all one or all the other. So lots of you have already identified this very cleverly, that you're somewhere in between. So yeah, we're never completely one or the other. So as you noted today, and as Shannon and I were talking about a bit earlier about being introverted or extroverted, you can be a little bit of both. You can have a bit of both in you in different ways. So you're not like locked in. Don't worry. And as I said as well, something that's, I think, is one of the most important parts of this module is understanding yourself, but also then understanding others and maybe understanding why they think the way they do. As if you're interested as well, you can look up online how they've been used in TV and movie scripts. So Penny and Sheldon are a perfect example out of The Big Bang Theory, where they use two extremes, two extreme personality types to sort of create comic effect and make them clash. Obviously, this is necessarily how it works all the time in the real world, but it's a bit of fun. So it's interesting if you're if that's sort of an area you're interested in, you can have a look at different TV and movie scripts and how they use these polar opposites to create.
Another area you tend to see it is in partnerships, where often in tutorials, when I talk to students, it's funny how often you have, you know, a judging personality marry a perceiving personality, like so, you know, that opposite do tend to attract or balance each other out.
Yes,
probably. So
that's a good way of putting it, Shannon. Totally balance each other out. Yeah, definitely.
And I 100% agree with you. Having an awareness of yourself and what other people, how other people approach tasks is invaluable in the workplace. It really makes you a good team member in a workplace if you can consider how another person's personality is going to impact how they approach a task.
Totally. That's exactly right, Shannon. Yeah, so important.
Helen and I were, again, Helen was on one extreme and I was on the other. So it was always good that, I could, because she was very, very judging, as you've worked with Helen as well.
Yeah.
Very timeline orientated, very organized, and I was very perceiving. So I knew when I worked with her on joint projects, I really had to work on that side of myself, just so I didn't stress her out, and she had to, you know, be a bit more lenient. Right?
Yeah, that's right. You sort of have to come into the middle, don't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's definitely right. So yeah, it is. Shannon's right. It's invaluable in both this study context, but also later on in the workplace. And sometimes I even find, after learning a bit more about this, that when people do things that I just find baffling, I look to the personality types or learning styles and think, oh, okay, you know, they're doing that probably because this is how they see the world, or that's how they approach things. Whereas at the time, to me, I might just be like, why? Why are you doing it that way? But when you, consider the differences between us, you think, oh, okay, that's the way I used to see things a bit different. And that's fine. So I've got a couple of reminders and things to do, and then I'll open it up to questions. But as always, pop on and contribute to the forums. Violetta is our lovely forum monitor this week. So she'll be there answering any of your questions. She'll also be doing the workshop this week. So keep an eye out for Violetta there. We are coming to the end of our modules for Learning Portfolio A. So Learning Portfolio A covers module 1, 2, and 3. This is our last one, and it's due at the end of week 4. So keep that in mind. Here are our questions for this week. If you haven't already, and hopefully you have, make sure you download the template, start filling in those answers. This week as well, there are some great tips in the study guide, the module 3 study guide, about Learning Portfolio A, some tips on how to tackle it, but also some tips on the word count. So some of you might be a bit worried about that. So have a look at those. Also, some important things, please make sure maybe just after this lecture would be a good time to complete these learning styles and personality type questionnaires. You will need them, obviously, to complete Learning Portfolio A. If you're an on-campus student too, to come along on Tuesday, it's to the on-campus tute. It's a good idea to have done these and be ready. Same thing if you're an online student and you're going along to the online workshop on Wednesday. Good to have done them. So they're all on Moodle. There's a link there. So this is the Solomon Felder one. It's activity 3-1. And there's just a link there to it. Make sure you save it, print it, whatever, email it to yourself. The Jung typology test is activity 3-3. Same thing. Make sure you keep it. An extra important thing to note is if you follow the instructions carefully, you'll note that it says that as well as completing it, you do need to have a look at the careers. So there's like a little careers button at the end, and you can have a look at careers that might be suitable for you based on that personality type. Make sure you note those careers as well. Same thing, save it, print it, send it to yourself, because we are going to swing back around and have a look at this in module 10. So make sure you note both your personality type and the careers that are suited to that one so that you can do it in module 10. There's also a really handy reading about learning personalities. You can find that it's activity 3-5 on Moodle, and it'll be really helpful as you prepare for your learning portfolio A and answer those questions. It's just accessed from the e-reading list. So hop on there and have a look at that one. And of course, make sure you read through the study guide. There's some explanations of the learning styles and personality traits to give you a bit more info. There's some different documents on there for strategies, so things that you can use depending on your learning style and personality traits. And of course, make sure you take the time to sort of reflect on those. It'll really help for LPA. Okay, so there's my little all the best for LPA. But do we have any questions? Anything in the chat, Shannon, or anyone want to yell out, add?
No, there's nothing. Oh, there is lots in the chat, but I don't think it's questions. Lots of, you know, we always come at some point. How do, you know, life events impact your personality? Like, and again, you address that, how our personality types can change over time.
Yeah, I think once someone said to me, and this is probably like an interesting one, but they felt that when they had their kids, that really sort of adjusted their they had to sort of adjust their personality types
yes,
to
right,
suit
yep.
that different part of their life. So yeah, it's a fluid thing. It's not a set and forget sort of system. Things do change and you adapt. And maybe at your core, you're always, I don't know, a perceiving person, but maybe you move a little bit closer to judging because of something or vice versa. So all right. Well, thank you, everyone. I might stop the recording here. So thanks, everyone watching online. But everyone else, please hang around and ask your questions if you've got them.